Hi everyone, I am Chaitanya Bansal, and this is Careers with CB, real conversations with real people about careers, what they do, how they got there, and exactly how you can too. Today's episode is very special because today's guest is somebody who has checked all the boxes. CA check, Big Four check, consulting check, and a US MBA check. And now she works at Honeywell doing M&A and strategic partnerships at a global scale. Hi Disha, welcome to Careers with CV.
Thank you so much, and that is a super warm welcome and intro note.
Thank you. Disha, we'll start from the top. Okay, why did you choose CA? Was it like a deliberate decision, or was it more of like, being a commerce grad, this is the most natural option that comes to you?
It wasn't the most natural. If anything, I remember when I cleared my 10th standard and I had to enroll in commerce, I told my parents, I will do anything but CA. That's how against doing CA I was. And it didn't go as per the plan, obviously, because I ended up doing CA. I think part of the reason was because I was in Nursing Honji College, which is considered as CA factory, at least in Mumbai. Everybody around me was doing CA. I was like, okay, let's just give it a try. Let's at least apply to CPT. We'll see what happens. CPT was a cakewalk. Went through fine. I was like, okay, we'll at least do IPCC because everybody around me is doing that, and I don't know what else to do. So continued with IPCC. Luckily, IPCC went fine too. And even before the results came in, I had an EY offer on hand. So I'm like, okay, yeah, this is great. I think I can do this. It's easy. And until CA final came in, I'm like, oh no, this is not easy at all. But it was too late to quit. I had already graduated with BCom, and I was like, okay, I've invested 3 years of articleship, IPCC, CPT already. No time to quit, just finish it so that I can do the next thing that I want to do. And that's how
Nice.
I ended up doing CA. I think it was peer pressure at some point.
So CA was like written for you.
I don't know, honestly, I don't think I can say that because it did demand a lot of hard work come through. At
Right.
least at least after IPCC, I think it was an uphill battle to get through CA final and the 3 years of articleship as well. Um, yeah, I think it was an uphill battle, but it came too late. The filtration should have happened earlier than later, but
Can relate, as I told you earlier as well. My personal journey is also kind of similar. Every CA student who's watching this would relate to the grind. On a similar line, what was something that kept you going? Because as a CA myself, I do understand that last phase of pushing through articleship as well as preparing for exam is really daunting. What if you had to single out one thing that kept you going, what would it be?
I I think there are two things, not just one. One, I really appreciate what learnings CA gave, both technical and non-technical. So the amount of character building that the whole journey does at a very young age is incredible. You are having to manage your BCom along with CA, along with articleship, going to office. And I was back then doing my articleship with KPMG, so it was like a proper job. But I think that's the case with all articles, in fact, whether you do a big four articleship or not. And
Right.
it builds this muscle to work hard and be disciplined in life at a very early age. So that was one. The second was just the fact that I'm like, I have reached way too far in this journey already, especially when it was the last year, CA final preparations were kicking in. I was like, I've come way too far to quit now. And if I want to do the next thing that I want to do, which is what I wanted to do in management consulting space, I'm like, I have to get done with this because only then I can move to the next thing. I don't want to be 22 years old just doing BCom at that time, which I don't think it's the best mindset, but that allowed me to fuel that motivation within to work harder and get through with CA rather than just quit at that time.
So the motivation to be done with CA made you do CA.
That's right.
Right. So, coming to the next question, when was there a realization that, okay, I don't want to go in traditional CA roles of audit and tax, consulting is something that I want to do?
So, I think in the first 2 years, in my first year of articleship, I was really enjoying what I did. I was doing corporate taxation in KPMG. I was really having fun doing everything I was doing. In my second year, I realized it's the same cycle over and over again, and that's not something that sits very well with me because I find similar things make me very carefree eventually. So I like more and more challenging roles where every day I'm solving different problems. So in my second year, I started figuring that maybe as much as I love studying CA, I don't love practicing CA or be into this traditional fields that CA has to offer. And I started evaluating other options. So I remember making this whole list of what are the other things that I can do. Consulting was one of them, investment banking, corporate finance, valuations, due diligence, commercial due diligence. So I made a list of everything, and thankfully, because I was in KPMG, I was able to like talk to people in all of these fields, even during my articleship, and just understand what the day to day looks like. And then by process of elimination, I'm like, okay, I don't think I'm gonna like that. Investment, corporate finance, I don't think I'm gonna like that. So I kept talking to people all through and through in KPMG and then outside as well. And by process of elimination, I'm like, okay, the only thing I'm interested in today that I want to get in is going to be management consulting. So as soon as I finish my CA and 3 years of articleship, I'm gonna jump on and try to get into management consulting. So that was a very scientific way of figuring out that okay, this is what I want to do, and it wasn't
Right.
just okay, we'll get into peer pressure mode again.
So, articleship could be a good testing ground on what you like and what you don't like, right?
I
And
agree.
even talking to people who are doing the same thing could be a great way to figure out what you want to do next.
I agree, absolutely. In fact, so one of the reasons why I said that CA is literally one of the best things I've done, even though it wasn't a very thoughtful decision. Honestly, it was
Mm-hmm.
more like, okay, go with the flow, everybody's doing it. I ended up doing it as well. Even though it was one of the best decisions because the amount of learning I got through the studying as well as through the articleship period at that age was incredible to put a very strong foundation. Because now when I was looking for management consulting roles, I was very clear that I'm willing to like do this role only and be in this job profile only, and not be like, okay, this is one of the job that has landed on my hand, so I'll just take a, like take an approach and see what to do. So that articleship is really really interesting time where you can set your foundations strong and straight.
Right, it's the best time to experiment.
Exactly.
So, moving forward, you moved as an article from KPMG's tax division, right? And you went to Deloitte Strategy and Operations. Given you were also a non-rank holder,
That's right.
because it's easy to get as a rank holder into core strategy. So, how
So
was your pivot?
difficult, very
Okay.
difficult. So, especially at that time, every time I would look at roles for management consulting, even if it's not a big four consulting or the MBBs of the world, even then they always need a tier one MBA to get into that role. I remember I had an Excel sheet where I ended up applying to more than 150 job applications in a matter of 6 months. I had spoken to my partner in KPMG in the tax team, saying that I will leave as soon as I get management consulting, but until I get that, I'm going to continue working with KPMG. And he was pretty on board with that. In fact, he tried to put my referral internally to the KPMG team as well. But they needed an MBA as well, even though I was already part of KPMG. So I started applying elsewhere. They never even interviewed at that time. So I started networking with a lot of people in management consulting, applied to over 150 jobs at that time, and I got one interview, like literally one interview. And that was from Universal Consulting, which is a boutique management consulting company based in Mumbai. So I'm like, okay, this is great, and I have to crack this because that's literally the only option I had. Um, when I was networking with people, they did tell me about how to interview for these cases. There is casing, there is estimates. How do we go about these different formats of interview, which is very different than what you would interview for any traditional CA fields. So I kept prepping for that while I was also applying, and I was still working with KPMG at that time. And I don't know, I think it was just luck, little bit of hard work, and everything had to go right. And I did end up cracking that interview, and I got that job, and that's how I landed into management consulting. And then it was easy because now, after 2 years of working in that role, I had the experience of working in consulting. And if anything, I think when you work in boutique companies, you get more exposure, you lead more projects than you would in a very big company and organization. So from there to move to Deloitte was not that difficult, but to get that boutique opportunity, that was very, very difficult.
I think it's a very good takeaway because I see a lot of freshers just chasing brand names irrespective of what field do they want to get into. So, the best approach would be to get the field that you want to, and even if it is a boutique firm, right?
Yeah, I would not say even if it is. Honestly, if you are moving fields, now I had no experience of making strategies before or how to go about those things. And I feel, and I may be wrong about this, but what I feel is if I had moved into a bigger team already, starting off in my career, I would have not developed that fundamentals of how to make these strategies, how to do market research, how to identify trends and analyze them, how to synthesize data, how to clean the data that comes from the customers. There are so many skill sets where you have to really get your hands dirty to understand the very fundamentals of how to do these things. And I think I got that because I was at a boutique company. Teams are smaller, more responsibilities, and more exposure. And then moving to a brand name sort of gives you good recognition, credibility, and
Mm.
credentials as well. But to start off, you are looking at so much learning when you're at a smaller company. So I would not say you should join a smaller company if you're not getting a bigger company. You should rather focus on doing one small company at least to like get your hands dirty and really strengthen your fundamentals, and then move to the bigger companies if you like that better.
Well said, Disha. So, cut to Deloitte, you were in strategy doing fintech assessments. So, as a consultant, how much of your CA skill sets comes in handy, or was it more of learning from scratch?
No, I think CA comes in handy a lot. And the reason I say that is a lot of times when we make strategies, uh, so when you make strategies, there are two ways to look at it. One is a market lens, trying to understand what's happening in the market, doing competitive benchmarking, trend analysis, all of those things, where that is something that you don't really do in any of our CA fields as much. But then the second part is just identifying what's happening within the company, understanding what internal processes look like, understanding how it will impact the financials. Will it impact the top line or the bottom line or both? To what extent? And to contextualize it in your company or your customers' lens. And I think that context building, that reading of financial statements, that understanding of different accounting treatments, that is something that I learned very well in C, and that gives me an edge today in my role as well, because a lot of people don't understand how to read these P&L statements and how to identify what is the recurring growth going to look like, and how has this growth been calculated, or how to analyze some of the ratios that we understand better during CA. So I think CA gives you a very good technical edge, and then you pair that with the other skill sets that you develop on the role, and I think, yeah, you'll be better than the rest.
So CA helps you understand the numbers, and being a consultant helps you look beyond that.
I agree. Yes, being a consultant, you will get to paint the bigger picture, basically, but CA will allow you to validate a lot of those things and contextualize it a little more than just be like a storyteller.
Got it. So, Disha, you had already gotten into the field that you were aiming for. You had a solid career going on in India. So, when was the MBA itch coming to you that, okay, even though I'm having a good career, but now is the time for me to go for an MBA?
Yeah. So I think I wanted to do an MBA the minute I decided to get into management consulting. Um, but I had this sort of zid, if you were to say, that I don't want to do MBA before I do management consulting, because I don't want to be in a position where already know the career I want to get into. Then I end up doing an MBA prior to that, and then I get into that career. And what if I don't like that still? And what if I want to pivot still? So I was like, if I already know that I want to get into consulting, I'll get into consulting today. And I fought that uphill battle to get into it. And then I wanted to explore and get that option to myself, that okay, if I was to do an MBA 3 years, 4 years, 5 years later, it might be better off for me to actually, have that option open in case I want to pivot. And that did happen, because after spending close to 4 5 years in management consulting, I was like, I love this work, I can do this work. I really like the exposure and visibility I get in this role as well. However, there is something missing, that as a consultant, I would walk into a meeting room, I would give this very nice strategy for companies to work on and be like, yeah, this is how you're going to probably grow at whatever percentage in so many years. And then I walk out of that room and I have no idea if they implemented that, if they implemented how well they implemented that. If they did implement it well, did it really bear the results that I was anticipating from that entire exercise? And I started feeling that my learning is a little incomplete. Like I'm learning the first part of it to make a strategy, but I'm not learning the feedback part of it, that okay, this strategy worked and this didn't, and this is the reason it didn't work. There are some statistics that say over 70% of strategies don't work usually. So I'm like, I want to know what is that 70%, and of the strategies I'm working on, how many are falling in that 70% and how many are falling in the 30%, and actually get that learning. And that's why I wanted to move out of consulting, still be in the strategy space, but move out of consulting more on the industry side, where on the other side of the table, I become the client now, and I'm catering to the internal strategy teams of these companies, where I'm not just making strategy, but I'm also implementing it. And since I'm going to continue working on the same company, 2 years later I will know, okay, we decided something 2 years ago, did it work, did it not work, what can we do better? And it sort of is like a complete loop of learning. And that was, I think, a very good realization that I had. So doing an MBA sort of allowed, doing an MBA later sort of allowed me that option to decide to pivot in case I want to and get that different experience.
So, seeing the other side of things and getting the opportunity to pivot was your motivation behind doing a MBA.
Correct.
So, how did you decide that I'll go for a foreign MBA? Because I see experienced professionals either going for ISB or IMABC's one-year program. How was that decision of going for an MBA abroad and even choosing US as a geography was?
So, again, I had this entire filtration mechanism when I was doing this exercise. My first preference was to be in India, but because I was already, I already had work experience of close to 4 or 5 years by that time when I was thinking about this. And by the time I would actually join the program, it would be a couple more years. So I started evaluating different programs in India, and what I realized is IIM ABC usually the 2 year program that they have usually has a much younger age group, and I did not want to be in a class where the learning is not like peer-to-peer learning is limited.
Right.
I'm sure that program is amazing, but only if I would have done a little earlier in my career. So then ISB was one option, and then I was starting to explore different options outside of India. Being outside of India started attracting me more at the time because I wanted to also be out of the comfort zone. In India, I was living with family in Mumbai, never really explored living by myself in a different terrain, different geography altogether. So I was like, okay, maybe, let's just go all out because this is the age you can explore and experience everything. And I was really, really interested in seeing what other geographies had to offer. So I literally got this whole globe from one of the stationery stores, and I'm like, okay, where am I gonna do my MBA next? There were some options. I was evaluating Australia, UK, US, Canada, and then um, ruled out a lot of things for different reasons. Some because of global exposure, some because they are recognized only in that geography and not everywhere else. Some because I wasn't sure the economy is going to be very strong there. So the final two options for me were US and Canada at that time. And then just when I was about to like cling on more towards Canada because it has lesser visa issues than US for an international student, I was like, I think it might be better off for me to do it from the US because doing an MBA from the US still keeps the door open for me to move to Canada tomorrow if I have to, but vice versa is not really a feasible alternative. So that's how I landed up in US, and then of course there was this whole filtration mechanism that happened again to like decide which B school to go to. But then my decision making was okay, India or India or outside India, and then from outside India I had to like just pick what made best sense to me, and then I think US was the one that was most recognized everywhere, whether you come back to India or any other geography.
So your consulting frameworks kind of helped you make better decisions here as well.
Yeah,
Nice.
so I think CA was the only one that I took in peer pressure mode. Outside of that, most of the decisions are like they have a very good framework, and I think that's what I've learned in my consulting career as well. Every decision you make, you need to have a framework and then work through that framework.
So Disha, how was your application journey? And for viewers who are in this phase of applying to B schools abroad, what would you say is a very common mistakes of Indian students who are applying abroad?
I can speak specifically to the US. I think one of the major mistakes people make for the US is you end up going to B schools which are not in very big cities. I did not either. But only after coming here, I realized that location bears very high importance in deciding which B school you want to get into because that is where ultimately your job comes from as well. So unlike India where colleges come on placements, in the US there are no colleges that come on placements. They may have some relationship, ongoing relationship with the colleges, but you ultimately still compete with the pool outside of that very college as well when you're applying for jobs. And which is why if you're in a bigger city where there are more opportunities, it's easier for you to meet people, do coffee chats. People recognize that school. They don't have to give relocation, so they prefer people already in that city as well. So you definitely should focus a lot on which city you're going to in addition to everything else that happens as well. That's some mistake I've seen a lot of people make.
So placements in the US are self-driven, unlike in India where it is college-driven.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so coming to the next question, when I think about US and moving to US specifically, I think about the visa uncertainty and the H-1B issue. So, would you shed some light on what is the current situation and how did you factor it in when you were taking your decision?
So when I was taking my decision, it wasn't as big of a bloodbath that it is today. So after coming here, I realized, okay, things have changed since I had last inquired about these things. But the visa issues are real. I'm not going to lie. It is difficult to get sponsored jobs more now than before. Um, it is difficult to uh, get picked for H1B lottery as well. It's not a lottery anymore. It is more of a weighted average probability now. It's not just random like it used to be before. So that does make it better for people who are coming with experience, because then you'll go into a bucket which has higher probability of getting picked, versus a fresher. If you're a fresher coming straight to the US, very difficult to get a job with zero to no experience. And getting, even if you do get a job, getting picked in a lottery when you'll be in the lowest bucket to get picked, it's really difficult as well. So I think it's important to consider the visa issues and consider the restrictions that we have. That something is there. I think it's everywhere, but it's mostly higher in the US compared to the rest of the world.
All right. So, if you had to share your experience of 2 years at
University of Rochester, Simon
y-
Business.
your MBA experience and kind of draw a parallel between Indian academics and US academics, how was it?
Um, I think, I mean, in India, I've it's a little unfair to compare CA or BCom to MBA because they are like
Right.
really different courses. But from whatever I've learned from people, spoken to a lot of people, if I was to really compare things between US and India, US is very network driven. From what I've known about people doing an MBA here, you constantly go to these treks and these events and these conferences where you meet so many people, where you sort of put yourself in this uncomfortable position to constantly just introduce yourself, give these elevator speeches, and talk about your experience time and again, and it pushes you to an extent where it can like really break you as well sometimes. And I wouldn't lie, it did almost get to me as well towards the very end of it. I'm like, oh, this is not helping. So, so that happens. Versus in India, I think you will always have a security net because your family is there. It's your own country. You don't have to worry about going back. You don't have to worry about spending crores of rupees, because when you come to study here and you pay your dollars, it is super expensive. So you're constantly battling the financial burden, coupled with no sponsorship, coupled with lack of job if you're a fresher, all of those things. Versus in India, that pressure is lifted off. In India as well, it's super competitive. In India as well, the entire experience is, I would say, like the peer-to-peer experience, case studies and MBAs, all of that is very similar, but there is this very big pressure difference which you have when you are in the US or any other country for that matter, and uh, when you are in India, because India is ultimately still your own country, and you're not
Right.
worried that you'll be thrown out of the country at any point if you don't find a job in 6 months or 2 months or 3 months.
So, being an international student adds to the financial as well as the
Absolutely.
job uncertainty pressure.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, I would say that like academically, I don't think it's going to be that different for an MBA. Like again, masters is going to be different, but purely from an MBA perspective, I don't think it's super different between the learnings you get in India versus the learnings you get in the US. Network is one thing which is different, because here you meet global talent, you meet people from around the world, not just from India and the neighboring countries. So the exposure, global platform is like one very big thing. So network is one thing. And the pressure, the financial pressure is different when you're in any other country.
So, foreign MBA gives you much more than academics. It is more on testing yourself in a new environment.
Absolutely, absolutely. That whether or not you want that is going to happen.
Right. So, let's get to your current role at Honeywell. So, if you could explain what do you do and is there a story behind how did you land this job?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I should talk about that story while I'm still employed with Honeywell.
All right.
But I'll caveat a few things here and there, and I can still talk. My current role is essentially working in strategy M&A and partnerships team with Honeywell. So consider the same job that I was doing before, but now for the company, for only that one company. So I'm part of this internal strategy team here. The amazing part about this role is that uh, this role entails not just making strategy, which is what I used to do, but also taking it a level deeper, making it more operational. Meaning, whatever strategies we come up with, let's say we say that okay, we want to enter this one particular country in Europe because we are not doing well or we've never been present in that, and if that's what we've decided, we sort of go to that nth level where we'll be like, okay, who is going to be the leader, how is the organization structure going to look like for that. We will decide what products are we going to offer in that geography if we are entering. And not just that, we will take it a level further as well, where we'll be like, okay, let's say I want to get into this product ABC in Germany, for example. Um, but we don't currently have that product anywhere else that we offer, but that is a very unique thing about Germany, which is why we want to take that product and go to Germany. Now we want to either do an M&A because it'll take forever to build a product from scratch. So now we'll rather do an M&A and take an existing company under our wings, sort of integrate the entire company, and then offer that same product, which is less than a year process. Or maybe let's say I don't want to do an M&A, we maybe don't have budget or we're not finding the best company we want to do an M&A for. Then we'll probably do a partnership, which is a strategic partnership where we're like, okay, this is a product gap that we have, so let us do a strategic partnership with these guys, and they sell our products, we sell their products, we do a value reseller between the two companies, and we have customers that they can sell their additional products to, so they get some more revenue, and we get the product that we were missing in our portfolio. So basically just figuring out these nth level of things which I would never have done in my consulting role. So I think it's everything I used to do in consulting plus a couple of more things about operationalizing it and implementing that strategy is what my current role is.
Sounds pretty interesting.
It is.
So, we'll move to the last section of this podcast, which is a rapid fire round. Okay. So, be quick, honest, no overthinking. All right.
I'll try.
Okay. So, question one, CA or MBA if you had to choose just one.
See you.
Nice. One thing that CA taught you that no MBA could.
Resiliency.
Worst career advice you ever received.
It is fine to let things take its own course. Don't take the pressure for it. I think you need to take pressure for it. Don't let yourself burn down, but take pressure for it and work for it. I think, yeah. I used to have this saying called, when I was doing CA again, I had this saying written on my whiteboard which said, uh, luck does not create your life, but hard work does. And your sweat will turn bad luck to good luck. And I very strongly believe in that.
Great. Mumbai or US, where do you feel home?
Mumbai.
That one book or resource that you would say changed your life.
Multiple books, honestly. I can't really think of one. I think the one thing that's coming to my mind is Zero to One. I started reading that, got motivated, but there are several other books that I've read and I've gotten inspirations from.
Something you wish that Indian professionals did differently abroad.
um, get out of their comfort zone and talk just to Indians in the classroom, in the office, outside, in the city. Like make you're not in India anymore. Talk to other people as well. Get to know everybody and learn from different cultures and different people.
Nice. As cliche as it sounds, what does your 10 years from now version looks like?
Honestly, that's a very, very difficult question. I have no idea whatsoever. Um, I would like to believe that I am running my own firm, uh, doing consulting, but I don't know if that's how it is going to be.
Last question, one sentence for a CA fresher who feels stuck.
The time will pass. You just keep putting in the hard work and be very honest to yourself. I think these are some things that helped me when I was doing CA as well. I felt stuck at a lot of times. Um, Believe that there will be a better time coming, but at the same time, don't just rely on luck. Put in the hard work and then decide for yourself if this is really something you want to do.
So that brings us to the end. I would say thank you so much, Disha. This has been like a very honest and a real conversation. What I loved about you is that you started CA with peer pressure, but every other decision after that was so well thought, and you bringing in your consulting frameworks in all your decisions and having clarity on what you want to do next is something that really stands out for me.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
sure. Thank you so much, Tisha. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much for this wonderful session, Chaitanya.